Moramai, good morning. This is Judith Lay welcoming you to Manx Radio and to the podcast of this week's edition of At Your Service. Manx Radio. This is Judith Lay saying Moramai. Good morning and welcome as once again I am at your service. Manx Radio. Lockdown is easing, spring has sprung, and today is the final day of National Gardening Week. Run annually by the Royal Horticultural Society, the focus this year has been on encouraging people to keep growing things and enjoying green spaces for their proven benefits to health and general well-being. This morning we're going to hear 3 stories of how churches are using gardens to serve their local communities. But let's start with a hymn, probably one of the best known in celebration of creation. Choir girl Isabel Suckling and All Things Bright and Beautiful.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Each little flower that opens, each little bird that sings, He made them glowing colors, He made the tiny wings. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. The purple-headed mountain, the river running by, the sunset and the morning that brightens up the sky. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. The cold wind in the winter, the blessed summer song, the ripe fruits in the garden, He made them every one. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. He gave us eyes to see them, and lips that we might tell how great is God Almighty, who has made all things well. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all.
Choir girl Isabel Suckling and All Things Bright and Beautiful. And now let's get out into the garden. 3 different gardens that all share one thing in common. They've been created to benefit their local communities. First, we go to Berkshire to hear from Reverend Canon Julie Ramsbottom, rector of St James's Church in Finch Hampstead. When St James's Church was bequeathed 10 acres of land, they decided to turn it into a garden for the whole community. It's touched lives and helped those struggling with grief.
We are here today at St James's in Finch Hampstead. St James's is a 12th century Grade 1 listed building and it has 10 acres of surroundings. There was a wonderful lady called Lady Liddell who bequeathed her home, the manor house, next door to St James, and its surrounding 10 acres into our hands. Ever since then, we have embarked upon a programme of trying to make our surroundings as available as possible to the local community.
Of the 10 acres, the 3 acres are taken up with the churchyard, this part of the churchyard, and then over the back we've got the new churchyard and then the woods. So this is the new churchyard. We started this a little over 2 years ago. If you were standing here 2 years ago, you would not have been able to walk in the. It would have brambles 8 foot high, 10 foot nettles, and this is Lady Liddell's old garden and was the main part of a garden to the west of the manor house.
It was full of fallen trees, brambles. It was impossible to walk through. We want it to be used as a community space, so people are more than welcome to come round. I think it's quite incredible when we have families in here. The bamboo is a favourite place because it can get lost all the way around it, thoroughly enjoy themselves. I can be lost in here working a couple of hours on my own. That is of a major benefit to me. It's getting away from the rubbish of modern day life.
It's been really important as we've gone through the process of developing our use of our surroundings to be mindful always of our responsibility to nature and to use natural things, to recycle, to be aware of nature as much as we can, and to try to use our environment to enhance rather than to harm nature. And everything we do is done to that intent.
Between the spring and the autumn, we have a Saturday morning where we invite people from the family service to come along with the children. They come along and they weed and they dig up things and they cut down some of the dead shrubs and things of that nature. And that's just lovely.
I've been working in the gardening club up here for about 3 years. When my husband died 5 years ago, he was buried in the old churchyard. What I find personally is as the biggest benefit to me being up here, it's been a real healing process for me. Firstly, because it's wonderful being out in the open. It's wonderful being with a group of good people, giving of our time. It's a very spiritual feeling, a feeling of peace. There is nothing like being out here in these surroundings.
We began to use the garden for worship when we began to realise its potential. So we have festivals here about 6 or 7 times a year where families come, we encourage them on a walk or we encourage them to do an outside nativity. Ed Sampson and I have recently created a prayer walk which takes people all around the outside environs of St James, from tree to tree, where they can pause, reflect and just simply walk our grounds. The most important thing we'd like to achieve from this garden in terms of its use is that the community feels safe, feels welcome, feels like they would like to come here regardless or not whether they're churchgoers, simply to enjoy and to find comfort, to find happiness, contentment, just to make them better and more whole people.
From Berkshire, we go now to South East London to hear from Reverend Steve Hall, Vicar of St Mary the Virgin in Lewisham, where a peaceful therapeutic garden has been established in an inner-city area that was once used by drug and alcohol users. The therapeutic garden is now a place for all, including those in recovery from mental health problems.
Here at St Mary the Virgin Church in Lewisham, we've created a therapeutic garden which has become an oasis of peace and healing and prayer for everyone who visits. When I arrived here as vicar 7 years ago, this part of the churchyard was a quite unpleasant area. It was used and misused by people with alcohol and drug problems. It was a very unfriendly and unwelcoming space. The project really began with making links with our next door neighbour, the Ladywell Mental Health Unit with the NHS. And they wanted some of their patients to come and do some outdoor activity. And what then evolved was a desire to do more and more, to the point where in 2016 we launched it. We invited the local community, our local mayor, to come and launch our therapeutic garden.
The garden is for mainly people in recovery from poor mental health. So it's a garden for well-being. So we open it every Tuesday. They come for a couple of hours, but then we finish with tea, chats, and we do a bit of mindfulness just to round it all off.
Well, when volunteers come on a Tuesday, they all have very different abilities, both physically and in terms of how long they want to keep going. And so we share out jobs according to people's interests and abilities. They could be weeding, they can weed in company, or they can do a little patch on their own. They can be watering.
I've been coming about 2 years every Tuesday. After being mentally ill for 15 years, I feel useful and I'm not useless. I like working outdoors. I was always outdoors with my dad as a kid, and I look at what I've done and I think, yeah, that's worth it.
My responsibility here within the garden is vegetables, and it was decided that we'd have the 3 different heights for persons who cannot bend over and also need to be able to reach at that sort of level, perhaps from a wheelchair. So we have potatoes, tomatoes, there's beans, cabbage for persons who... There is a lot of food here. If any of the people who volunteer wish to take any of this, they are free to do so. Any surplus food left at the end of the day, we have a link with a food bank for refugees. Nothing is wasted.
I like to work with Mark. He's always got the jobs that make you tired and stuff, you know, those get stuck in and stuff like that, yeah. So I feel refreshed. I feel happy. They say it's good for the soul. It's good for the soul, and it's just like, it just makes me feel at home.
Gardening is really, really useful because it generates hormones like serotonin and dopamine that help to keep people calm, and they also reduce stress hormones, cortisol, which makes people stressed out, as you can imagine. When you're ill, you do feel very powerless, especially if you've been an inpatient in hospital. You're quite vulnerable. So if you can go out into a garden and make things grow, that helps you recover your sense of yourself and helps to give you faith in your ability to make things happen again. If you've had bad experiences which have been very shocking and quite life-threatening, particularly if it's involved other people, for example, being attacked, it can really help to take some gentle steps towards recovery by being in a safe environment without too much close contact with other people, but with contact with plants, vegetables in a beautiful environment.
It's a real statement of the openness of our church community and many others across the wider community to come together just to share this space and to create something beautiful. I think now people know it's here and they love coming in to be with God, to be with their own thoughts and to find that moment of peace. For us as Christians, it says something deeper about the love and the presence of God, which we see here day by day.
Our third garden was created during lockdown outside St Mary's Church in Tadley near Basingstoke. As Reverend Jill Sakakini explains, it was inspired by Psalm 23 and during lockdown became a symbol of hope for people across the community.
I'm Jill Sakakini and I'm a minister here at St Mary's Church in Tadley. About 3 years ago, when I was deciding whether I would come here to do the rest of my work, my training, I came for a visit, and that night I had a dream. I saw out here on the church grounds a wildflower garden. I heard about the Psalm 23 garden that the Bible Society was involved with, and that was where that seemed to connect with what I already had in my mind and bring those two things together in an amazing way. Once we started thinking about Psalm 23, we focused on journey, and I wanted people to be able to walk and share. And so the idea started to evolve then into the idea of a labyrinth. A labyrinth is a very traditional motif. It's a way of walking meditatively and carefully. It's not a maze, and the difference is that you can't get lost. So in a maze you risk getting lost. A labyrinth, you walk into the centre and you walk out the same way. So it lends itself to a rhythmic, quite meditative, thoughtful way of walking, which allows you to think and pray.
When I'm here, I'm quite unaware of any traffic that's going by. It's like a sanctuary, and it gives you a chance to just switch off and just, feel refreshed in God's presence.
I think there's something intentional about walking the labyrinth. You know you're coming to be quiet, to be still, to pray, as opposed to just going for a walk in the park.
Sometimes I will come and just say the 23rd Psalm as I'm walking around. Another time I will just marvel at God's diversity in all the different plants. Every time it's something different.
At the beginning of 2020, we were all set to go. We had sourced our wildflowers from a local place here, and we were due to start planting, the end of March, really. But of course, this was all put to stops because of the pandemic beginning. Then about a month later, we felt that with all the precautions that we could take, that it was viable for us to start planting.
The Wildflower Turf Company also had this material called Meadowscape, and they will supply you with effectively a builder's bag full of compost, and within that compost there is the seeds are already mixed in there, so it's all well been churned over. By laying it 1 inch thick, that spreads all the way around and it's easy to go with the shapes. I did the first bit, and then after that I showed Reverend Jill and her husband how to do it, and they just worked like a couple of beavers. It's absolutely amazing.
Yes, obviously we didn't know that COVID was on the doorstep, and so the garden has definitely connected with people in the light of that. And I think it's created just some space for people and some outdoor space.
This garden gives me hope. It gives me a sense of well-being, and knowing that I can come and sit up here whenever I choose, whenever I need to. If life just gets on top of me a little bit, I can come and relax, I can chill, I can get some peace, I can get some spiritual healing from it, and I come away feeling really, I guess restored.
For me, this has been an absolute gift of 3 months of being able to work on this. And I will titivate it, but I will also walk round it and just enjoy it as well.
So my vision and hope for this Psalm 23 garden is that it will be a real place in an enduring sense, a place where people can connect with the grass, with what's beneath them, in a sense that just roots them and gives them an opportunity to step outside of their normal life and find what God has to offer, a sense of hope and stability, security and abundance.
Maggie is one of a number of people who took part in the Bible Society's quest to find our favourite Bible verses. For her, the words of the 23rd Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd," have truly been a lifeline for her.
When I moved here would have been around about 1965, I would imagine. Mum and Dad didn't get on terribly well. It was very difficult living at home with Dad. She felt she had to leave him, which was really difficult in the early 60s. She found this place in Bermondsey, big house, even though it was falling down. It was a roof over our head. It was a little bit of a scary time, although quite exciting, when you finally come to the realisation of it and the fact that it was now just the three of us. Mum's going to have to work a lot to put shoes on her feet and food on the table. Mum worked from 9 to 5 at Southwark Council. In the evenings she would get any job going just to get extra money. When Mum and Dad separated, my godmother gave me a Bible and I tried to read it. It was very difficult. So I read the things that I knew, and I knew "The Lord's my shepherd" because we sung it in the school choir. So I started to read through the Psalms, and I enjoyed Psalm 23 because it was familiar to me. My Bible was a little slice of heaven for me because I could get lost in the poetry of the Psalms. It was like my go-to place, and I loved my picture Bible more than anything. I used to keep it under my bed and I'd bring it out and I would read it at night when that old house was creaky and scary, and I wasn't very happy there at night and when it was dark, and my Bible was my go-to happy place. I didn't read much else. My dearest friends would come to stay with me, and so, oh dear, we used to keep a little pile of shillings for the electricity meter on top of the meter, and if Mum was out and the shilling had gone and we hadn't got any shillings for the meter, it would be dark and my friend and I'd be scared. We would hide under the bedclothes and just pray that Mum would come home soon and come home safely. And she knew this little song from her Sunday school class that was, "Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life." And that was the end part of Psalm 23. So we used to pick this up and we'd hide under the bedclothes, pretending we weren't there, and we'd sing this song, "Surely he will, he'll keep us safe until Mum comes home with a shilling for the meter." I really clung onto those words, that surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, and I shall eat from the table set for me. And it was so personal, and I just really clung on to that promise.
From his Requiem, John Rutter's setting of Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." As most of the island's churches are open and welcoming back friends old and new, we've notice board news to share, and my thanks to everyone who sent information to me over the past week. We'll begin now with today's evening services and end the notice board with a look at service information for next Sunday morning. So, Bride Methodist Church celebrate their chapel anniversary with a service this evening at 6:30, at which Mrs. Jean Guthrie will preach. There'll be music from the Summer Singers and refreshments in the hall afterwards. Ballabeg and the Howe Methodist Chapels have evening services tonight at 6:30. Reverend Sean Turner will be in Ballabeg and Reverend Richard Hall will be at the Howe, with a warm welcome for everyone. Tomorrow, Bank Holiday Monday, there'll be a collector's fair at Dalby Schoolrooms behind St James's Church, open from noon until 5 p.m, with a range of stalls of collectibles plus the church bric-a-brac bonanza in the hub basement, plant stall and, of course, home-cooked food will be served throughout the day. This will support St James's chosen charities for the year as well as the Church Restoration Fund. There's no admission charge, just a warm welcome for all. Bishop Peter will celebrate a service of Holy Communion in St Adamnan's, Lonnon Old Church, this Wednesday, the 5th of May, at 7:30 p.m. News now from St Thomas's Church in Finch Road here in Douglas. They're having a series of 5 weekly light lunches each Friday, starting this Friday, May the 7th, between 12 noon and 1:30. It'll be a main course, a choice of delicious desserts and tea or coffee. There's no fixed charge, but a minimum donation of £7 per person is suggested. All the proceeds will be divided equally between church funds and Bridge the Gap, a facility at Nobles Hospital for young people who undergo extended periods of hospitalisation. Head to Kirkmichael this coming Saturday the 8th to enjoy lunch in support of this year's Christian Aid Appeal. It's in Michael Parish Church from noon until 1:30. It'll be soup and a roll, a pudding and a hot drink. The cost is £6 and tickets are available from Margaret on 878 450. 878 450. Also next Saturday there'll be an afternoon tea and plant sale at the Cool Chapel Hall in Braddon from 2 until 4:30. There'll be a wide range of bedding plants available as well as a cool cake stall and a bric-a-brac stall too. Admission is £4, which includes afternoon tea. Next Sunday, the 9th of May, there won't be a service in Christchurch, Laxey. Instead, there'll be a special service to celebrate Rogation Sunday, and it'll be at 10:30 in Lonnon Old Church Farm, followed by a ploughman's lunch. Have a word with Reverend Joe Dudley if you'd like to share in the lunch. Phone her on 861 989. 861 989. Trinity Methodist Church at Rosemount here in Douglas have a Sunday morning service at 10:30. Today it's led by Reverend Richard Hooton. Next Sunday, May the 9th, at the same time, it'll be a praise service led by members of Trinity's congregation. The Mariners Choir will be resuming their very popular Sunday evening services starting next week. On Sunday the 9th of May, they'll be in Ballaugh Parish Church, and the preacher will be the rector of Ballaugh, the Reverend Ian Skidmore. The service will start at 6:30 and be followed by supper and community hymn singing. And that's all we've time for today. Just a little reminder that this programme is also available as a podcast, so you can listen to it at any time that suits you. The At Your Service podcast is available from 7 a.m. each Sunday morning. It's easy to access it via our website, manxradio.com, but you'll also find it on all the main podcast platforms too. Items for the notice board and requests for your favourite hymns to be included in future programmes can all be sent to me via email. My address is judithlay@manxradio.com, or you can write to me if you prefer. My address is Manx Radio, PO Box 1368, Douglas IM 991SW. I always enjoy hearing from you. I'll be back tonight at 9 with Sundown. Easy listening music to round off your weekend. But for now, this is Judith saying thank you for listening, and I wish you and those you love a blessed, safe and peaceful week, and a very good morning.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.